Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Marshall High School proudly presents to you, in case you missed, Psychology 1. Today is Wednesday. God, don't make it Tuesday. Wednesday, April 7th. It's hard to believe it's April. I don't know why. Can't wrap my head around it yet. And this is in case you missed psychology. So if you're watching this, that means you couldn't make it to class today for whatever reason. Maybe you're feeling a little under the weather. Maybe you had to take care of a little brother or sister. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you won the lottery and you're just trying to figure out like what direction your life is going to go. But regardless, you're here. And because of that, I hope you're well. I hope those around you are well. And, I hope you're having a good day. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to run you through the things that we did in class. I'm going to shortcut one thing. Instead of having you guys watch it together, I'm going to give you the rundown on what you can do to watch it. But like I said, I'm going to run you through the things. So today, kind of what things are, some reminders. First of all, what is psychology assignment was given out yesterday. That's due on Monday. And obviously, if you have any problems with that, please make sure and let me know. Other than that, the reminder thing, if you weren't able to make it to class yesterday, you could go back and watch the in case you missed it from yesterday. We went through class rules and grading policies. We talked a little bit about what the class is going to be about. I talked about ways that you guys could get a hold of me and things like that. So if you have any questions about any of that stuff, please make sure and let me know. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start looking at why you're in this class and why I think this class is valuable. It's kind of a little bit of an intro day. We're not necessarily going to go through anything you have to write down, but it would be a really good idea to pay attention and make sure that you are, getting all the things. And we'll start looking at how psychology can be a part of everyday life and how it's been a part of your everyday life kind of all along from the jump. Okay. All right. So today what we're going to do is we're going to get started with this next slide, which is entitled, Why Are We Here? Now, I'm not talking about humanity and then they were there or however you believe it happened. What I'm talking about is why are you in this class? Why am I in this class? And we really are in this together. I work for you guys. And so I like to explain kind of my journey that brought me to being a psychology teacher. It is kind of a specialized deal. There's a lot of people out there that can teach American history, but there's a lot fewer that can teach psychology. It's kind of there's a lot of biology teachers, but there's only a few there's not as many physics teachers, kind of the same kind of concept. Okay. And I'm not only going to talk about my journey here, but I want to get to the bottom of why some of you guys are here. And I asked this in the brief survey I had you guys do. So I kind of have the answers. So that's good. All right. So, anyway, let's get going. So the first, why am I your teacher? Okay. Well, if we go back on this one, I think probably the first thing that you guys should know about me is I'm from a town that is not that much different from this town. Okay. And being from a small town, a lot about your path gets set about who you hang around with and what you do for fun. And for me, school was something I enjoyed. I always liked going to school. It's where my friends were. School wasn't hard for me. And I played sports. So going to school got me to practice, or it got me to the game, or whatever it was I had to do. And in a small town, if you're a pretty good student and you're a good athlete, you become what I call local famous. Some of you guys are a little bit local famous. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Just don't make that the end all be all of your life. Now, I then moved on to high school. I went to a little bit bigger high school, also still a good student, also still a multi-sport athlete, so still relatively local famous. Then I decided that I was going to obviously move on. I graduated and I decided to go to UW-Whitewater because when I graduated from high school, Whitewater was one of the top business schools in America, and I wanted to be an accountant. I looked at dollars and cents, baby. Accountants could make a ton of money. I took one accounting class in high school and I really liked it. It was easy. And I saw that there was big income potential. So I went to Whitewater, got accepted, went into the accounting field and was an accounting major for almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. That's crazy to think about. I was sitting in a cost accounting class. I took a final. It was really easy. I handed it in. The professor followed me out into the hallway and said, "I'm not sure that you're cut out to be an accountant," which kind of was surprising because I was getting an A in the class. But then after that conversation, the person basically let me know that he didn't think that my personality, my outgoingness, my ADHD, my desire to talk and be massively involved was necessarily a good fit with what I thought I was going to do. And I went home and I thought about it. And you're at this crossroads. You're like 20 years old. You think you know what you want to do. You're about halfway through your college education, and you come to this realization that maybe this isn't for me. And so I had to sit back and decide what I wanted to do. And I went back to things that were important to me. Education had always been something I was good at. Education had always been something that I enjoyed. My father was a school board member. My mom was a school secretary. I had been a student my whole life. And so I decided to think about the teaching field. And so I started making lists, because that's what I do. I make lists on Post-it notes. And I made a list of the different areas I might be interested in teaching. And math was the first one I wrote down, because I loved math. I was really good at math. The problem with math, and the reason why I didn't become a math teacher, is I don't understand why other people don't get math. And so it frustrates me when you struggle at math and I just do it for you. Well, that isn't going to work. Science, I loved science. Science was something that was always really easy for me. I loved labs. We did labs all the time. Problem was, I loved the labs way more than I liked the learning how the lab worked. And I decided that in order to be a good teacher at something, you kind of had to be the complete, you had to do the complete job. Didn't want to teach little kids because, man, if somebody can't read, that's on me, and I'd feel bad about that. And I decided on social studies. I liked the different areas of social studies, like the variety of what you could do with it. But I also like the storytelling aspect of it, as you can obviously tell. And so some other things that led me down that social studies road were, I would say, chance and a really good teacher. And probably the reason why I'm a psychology teacher has more to do with this point than anything else. So when I was a junior in high school, I had a gap in my schedule. Okay, I think we had 7-hour day, 50-minute classes every day, saw the same teachers, kind of like what's going on now, but shorter and more. I had a gap. I want to say it was like third or fourth hour. And I didn't tell anybody about the gap in my schedule, and my school was big enough that you could get away with that. And my gap, it was fourth hour, because that's when we had lunch. My gap was the hour I had where there were like 4 different lunches. And what they did at our school is lunch. Our lunchroom was right next to our auxiliary gym, our second gym. And so when you got to eating lunch, you could go in and shoot baskets or play volleyball or whatever was set up that day. And so what I did fourth hour is I went to lunch and I hung out with my friends from the first lunch. And then I went and shot buckets or hit volleyball around or whatever. And then when that lunch ended, I kind of hung out for a few minutes. And then I went to second lunch and hung out with my friends who were in there, and so on and so forth. And we had 4 lunches or something like that. And so, no, 3 lunches, kind of like what we're doing now. And eventually, the thing that got me caught was the lunch ladies noticed that I was in there every day. And after 2 weeks of footloose and fancy free for my fourth hour classes, I got called into the guidance counselor's office, and they said, "You need to pick a fourth hour class." And you know how that goes. You're looking down the list, and you can't find anything. You're not interested. I've already taken that. I don't want to do that. I'd cut my fingers off if I did that. And I'm like, okay, what's psychology? And they went, "Oh, it's a social studies class, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Who teaches it?" They're like, "Oh, Mr. Watson." Now, that's Mr. Watson right there. Mr. Watson's an awesome dude. One of the best dudes I know. I probably have never told him how important he was on my journey. But Mr. Watson was my JV football coach, and he was an awesome dude. And I walked in to his class, and I kind of was like, "I'm here." And he goes, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And he goes, "Have a seat," which for me meant the back of the room and where I could get up and move around. And he started telling the story about this guy named Charles Whitman. Charles Whitman was a Texas boy, who kind of had a not great end. Okay. That's Charles Whitman down below with the flat top buzz cut. Charles Whitman grew up in Texas, typical Texas kid, did all the things, high school sweetheart, all those things, signed up for the military. Okay. Now, during his time in the military, he started complaining about headaches and kind of started having some anger issues. He was discharged from the military. And when he got back home to Texas, decided to marry that high school sweetheart. And he enrolled at the University of Texas. But while this was going on, the headaches were getting worse. And when the headaches would get worse, he was becoming like aggressive and a little more violent, except he didn't always remember the things that he was doing very clearly. Then things got worse, and they got worse, and they got worse. And all of a sudden, on August 1st, 1966, Charles Whitman went over to his mother's apartment, and they had dinner together. And she laid down to go to sleep while he finished watching a television show, and he went into her room and he killed her. He then picked up the phone and called her in sick to work the next day, covered her up, and left and went home to his apartment, where he, I think, stabbed his wife to death, if I remember correctly. He then went out and wrote a letter explaining what he had done, and that he didn't understand why he was doing these things, and that he hoped that when he died, they would do an autopsy and figure things out. And the next morning, he went to bed. A lot of reports say he slept in the bed with his dead wife. The next morning, he packed up all of his guns into a giant bag. He went to a hardware store, bought more guns, bought a bunch of ammunition, drove to the University of Texas, where he went to school. The UT has a big grassy area in the middle of the campus where people hang out, and there's a big church. He went into the church, went up the bell tower, which is the highest place on campus at that point, and opened fire. He shot 48 people. He killed 16 before the Texas State Rangers, the Texas Police, shot him and killed him. They then found his mother, found his wife. According to his wishes, they did an autopsy, and what they found explained, a lot of people think explained a lot of things. One, this is how psychology plays a role in this. He either had obviously a serious mental disorder, or two, they did find a tumor in his brain very close to a part of your brain called the amygdala, which has to do with like fear and anger and things like that. One theory out there is that when he would be stressed out, more blood flow to the brain, it would swell, it would push on the part of the brain that triggers this anger. And I'm sitting there, I'm 16, 17 years old, and I'm hooked now. I want to learn more. I want to know why I act the way I do. I want to know why Mr. Watson acts the way he does. I want to know why everything. Why? I raised my hand so much in that class. I was probably the most annoying human being ever. I give the man nothing but credit for being patient with me in that class, in Wisconsin history and sociology, and every class I took with him, because I took everything the dude taught. Okay, he was that good a dude. All right, and that was where my interest came in. Now, for you, you're here for a number of different reasons. A lot of you guys in your survey said that you need the social studies credit, or you want the social studies credit. And so you took Psych 1 to get half a credit of social studies. And like I said, hopefully you'll come back next year. It's a weird year to get yourself into Psych 2 to get the full social studies credit. Okay. Again, beauty is, there's literally almost no history in this. Okay. Some of you guys said that you heard the class was fun. That's great. I'm glad that that's something that interests you. You want that part of your day in there. That's great. A few of you guys are interested in psychology as a career. If that's the case, that's awesome. We've had a lot of psychologists go through this classroom. I claim to have nothing to do with that. Those people were interested before they met me. Maybe I gave them a little push in the right direction, but then they went on to college, and I've got every kind of psychologist that you can think of, including a college professor, which is kind of cool. And there were a couple people that said that they just love me. Thanks for buttering me up and making me feel good about myself. I appreciate it. Okay. So part of the why has to be, what can you do with this? Why is it such a big deal? Well, I always tell people that you're in one of the most important classes that I think we offer in this high school. I'm not knocking anything anybody else does. Okay. And I know that my skill set has a lot to do with what I do as a job, but in my adult life, I very rarely solve for X. I don't need to know which acid is corrosive and which one isn't. My Spanish is garbage. It should be better. I apologize to you guys that are Spanish speakers. I wish I had paid more attention in high school. But I use psychology every day, all the time. And not just because I teach it, because I try to understand people and why they feel the way they do and why they treat other people the way they do. I think it's really important. It has endless implications. Okay. Why is my partner treating me like this? Why does my boss ask me to do extra work? Why are my kids acting the way they are? God, why does my puppy keep peeing on the carpet? Okay. Is that person lying to me? Those kinds of things are the kinds of things we can learn in psychology. Now, some of that's psych too. We'll get there. We'll get there. Follow me. Come on the whole journey. All right, we'll have a good time, I promise. It can be really valuable in any career then, because you're learning how to read people and read situations and understand what motivates, what causes emotion, why does your memory work the way that it does. And so we can, if we get good at this, we can answer just about any kind of behavior question, or try to do it. I'm not going to say you're going to become an expert. You're not going to learn to read minds and understand every move every person makes. Boy, would that be an interesting superpower. Okay. But here's the interesting thing. You signed up for psychology, and after reading your group work yesterday, most of you can't define it. You don't know what you signed up for. Some of you can't even spell it. That's okay. We're going to get there. All right. And so I think one of the really important things about this journey that we're going to take together in these next 40 some odd days is that I want you to start to understand the why. Not just the why of why you're here, because that might change, but the why of why. Okay, why do people act the way they do? Why do totally normal people do XYZ thing? Why do people that struggle suddenly not struggle? Why are some dogs the coolest, sweetest things ever, but your other dog is a freaking nervous wreck? Okay. That's what we're going to look at a lot. Okay. So that's really kind of what we went through today. People that were here, we watched a video when we got done with this. It was a TED Talk by a guy named Keith Barry. It's a very irregular TED Talk because he does something called brain magic. If you're interested, please message me. I'll send you the link. Okay. Otherwise, if you have questions, please let me know. Have a great day. Take it easy.